You're listening to the greatest multifamily investment advice show. My name is Adam Ross, and now I'm talking everything multifamily for an in-depth conversation, and I will be diving deep into raising capital, deals, and underwriting process. Welcome back to the greatest multifamily advice show. Today we have Darcy Marler, an exceptional guest and real estate entrepreneur out of Calgary region of Alberta, successful author with more than 4 books and business focused on land development and all sorts of fun. How are you doing, Darcy?
I'm doing very well, Adam. Thanks. How are you?
Thanks so much for being with us today, and I appreciate you taking the time.
No worries. Anytime. I love to talk about this stuff. So
thanks a lot.
Always good.
I would like to start with the beginning about your background.
Okay. Yeah, I've been a full-time real estate investor for over 20 years now. In that time, I've basically done everything in the residential space, from long and short-term rentals to flips to condo conversions. I've done lots of land development and new construction. I've had 92 properties and 240 doors, close to 1,000 tenants. So I've built 45 homes. So yeah, I've done all kinds of different stuff.
So what was the motivation to switch to land development?
Just, I wasn't happy. I was, like I said, I had close to 1,000. So I had kind of the rental side of my business, and I never did like it. I just did it for the money. I can't point to anything on the rental side that I enjoyed, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And on the project side, the flips, the condo, I just got tired of being on site all day, every day, dealing with trades, whatever. You go to Rona two times a day for 17 years, you get tired of it. So yeah. I wanted to back away and just kind of let the experts do the on-site stuff and just get back to what I enjoyed the most, which is kind of the creativity. And I love to find stuff, and I love to be creative in the design after I found it. So.
Okay. So can you highlight the different land development strategies, especially the pre-development zoning? Like, you have different kind of stuff on the pre-development, starting from zoning, permits, community opinion, environmental. But what is the kind of different strategies and business opportunities on land development? Because it's not just a one type.
Yeah, because I think most people, when they think of land development, they just think of a big company on the outskirts of town that's got a few hundred acres, and over the next 10 years they're going to bring in 1,000 lots. But there's lots what I call micro strategies within land development that small and average size real estate investors can take advantage of. And that's, one of, for example, is, knocking down an old house, maybe subdividing or severing that lot into a couple, making sure both lots are serviced, and then sell that. Or you can do land assembly, where you can do 2 or 3 lots together, tear down the old houses and get the land ready for side-by-side townhouses or apartment buildings. You can maybe find a large lot that has excess land, and you can sever off the excess and keep the building. And then with the excess, the profits from that, you can either, put that back into the mortgage of the original building and get a better loan to value, which increases cash flow, or you can develop the part where the building is as well. You've also got, then, as you said, what they call upzoning, which is just changing the zoning of the density. So what I love about land development is, there's these different micro strategies for smaller investors, but typically with something like a flip or a condo conversion, let's say, you have to finish the project before you can sell it. You can't sell a half-finished flip and expect to get good money for it. With land development, because the asset is the land, you can just increase the value a little bit by doing something. Let's say just changing the zoning or the density, increasing highest and best use, and then sell it off to somebody else. Or you can tear down that old house and put, connect it to the water, the mains, the city mains in front of the street, and then sell that, right? So I say you can get on and off the escalator at various points. So that adds a lot of value to a smaller investor as well. You don't always have to spend the big bucks to buy 5 acres and put a bunch of pipe in the ground.
I think the only thing scare newbies about land development is the cash flow, because potentially for how long you're going to hold the property or the actual land, there's no cash flows going to come back to your pocket. But at the same time, upzoning is going to be an actual, if you know what you're doing, like changing the upzoning from rural area to like mid mid population. This is going to be helpful, but you have to deal with municipalities and understand where you're dealing with, because in some municipalities or regions, you're facing like people doesn't want to change this. So it's not easy decision to choose the market. So which is bring us to my next question, which is what is your actual target market?
So, well, it depends on the strategy, but what I would say to that, what you said before was, it's really, really important then you pick the right municipality, because across this country, for example, there's municipalities that'll take 2 months to approve your application, others 4 to 6, others 8 to 12, but unfortunately places like Toronto or Victoria or Vancouver, it can be 1.5 to 2 years. So I often get some pushback, says, oh, Darcy, you make this sound too easy. And I basically say, if it's hard where you are, it's because you're in a bad area. It's because the government, you've got a municipal government that's anti-development. So the first thing is, stop paddling upstream and start to play in areas that are pro-development and want you. Just as an example, Vancouver Island. So Victoria's awful. An hour away is Langford, where it takes 2 months to get stuff. In the middle of the island, there's Parksville and Qualicum that are easy to deal with. Nanaimo is 8 months, right? And then Sook is in the middle, and it can take 1.5 years to do something there. So just literally 50 miles away or across the street, you can have an entirely different scenario. Right?
I see a lot of development on Vancouver now, on the islands, especially on the islands. But I didn't know how long this usually take. But you're saying 8 months now?
Like in Nanaimo, or it's 1.5 years in Victoria, right? Wow. So why don't you invest where it takes 2 months or 4 months, right? Like, so you've got the power. You don't always have to just to work or invest down the street. You can, Calgary's 4 to 6 months, Edmonton's about 4 months, St. John is 4 months. So there's lots of places around the country that are easy to deal with than others. And so two tips I can give you is spend the time to try to figure out what municipalities are better than others, and then also to save time and save money, if you can find land that's already zoned the way you want. Like if you want to develop some land that's going to be side-by-side townhouses, try to work in areas or communities where the zoning's already been changed to do that, right? So you're not always having to apply for zoning changes every time you do anything. So there's ways to make this a lot easier than it has to be. So.
What about your criteria? So you focus on middle and Western Canada, or whenever there is an actual ease on the requirement on the municipalities?
So actually right now I'm actively looking for land in Houston, Texas. So I can be all over. So that's the beauty about land development too, is the process is the same generally. So in one area where it takes 2 months to get permit versus the other place where it takes 2 years, really the difference is the amount of paperwork that the municipality is asking for. And then, you might have 2 or 3 different committees that you have to go through. So the process is the same. It's just how much red tape you have to kind of fight. So once you've kind of learned the basics, you can really, I've looked in Florida, I've looked in Houston, so you can really go anywhere with these strategies. That's the good thing. And the other part too that's great is that if you're having trouble finding rental properties that cash flow, if you're having trouble finding land to flip or houses to flip because there's so much competition out there, the great thing is if you're using that strategy, for example, of knock down old house, I say basically anything earlier than 1950 or 1960 is fair game to knock down and increase density on that lot. As long, obviously, as long as there's not architecturally or some historical value to the original building, but most of them don't. So when you do that, all of a sudden, there's all kinds of opportunities now, because if you drive through certain neighborhoods, 70% of the buildings are still pre-1960, right? So it's almost like it's opened up this whole big untapped market of all these houses that you can actually play with now that you couldn't necessarily before.
So the actual strategy is to buy distressed properties and then knock them down, correct?
Yeah. So typically, if you look through let's say you're coming up on a property that was built in the 1930s and 800 square feet. It's on a 50-foot lot. I think most landlords or flippers will walk away because it's too old. Some flippers will still try to renovate it because, well, that's all I can find. There's so much competition out there.
Yeah.
But what if you just kind of flick your brain for a second and say, well, what if I just tear that down? That's a very inefficient use of space, right? Like an 800 square foot old house on a 50-foot lot. I could easily get, at least a duplex, but probably a fourplex on that same property, increasing the value greatly by doing that. So I think if we start to approach some of these older buildings as a tear down, as opposed to a flip or a rental, I think it opens up all kinds of possibilities that didn't exist there before.
But the play will be the zoning again with the municipality.
Again, so you can look for land that's already been zoned. So, is it zoned for single family, or is it already zoned for a duplex? And potentially a carriage house in the back or a suited basement, for example, kind of thing. So can you get 2 side-by-side townhouses with a suited basement? So 4, can you turn that into a little fourplex there? Maybe the zoning is just single family homes, so you have to apply for the zoning change, but maybe you can find some land in certain areas that's already been set up as allowing duplexes with suited basements, right? So again, don't paddle upstream, try to find the land that works the way you want it to work.
Okay, going back to this part, because you mentioned that you're moving to state Houston, especially with the appreciated market there. So what was like upside about US right now versus Canada, because you're focusing on Alberta? What is the upside about Houston versus Alberta for the land development side?
Just kind of where I am in my personal development. Like I've done all this stuff, right? So it's kind of maybe the next thing in my personal growth to see if I can do it in the US, right? So it's a little bit of a personal thing. Other than that, I get tired of the ups and downs in Alberta, right? Like it's, most of your listeners are in Ontario, probably. They've just seen 25% growth over the last 6 years, right? Every year for like, it's just always going up, right?
Yeah.
In Alberta, it's up and down and up and down. It gets a little tiring after a while. You just want normal, right? So Texas, for example, is supposed to double in population by 2050. So that speaks to just normalcy and some things you can count on that maybe you can't. And Alberta's a great place now because it's at the we've had a 7-year recession, so it's hit the bottom and now it's coming back up. So it's a great time to do something in Alberta now. 2016, 2017 wasn't a great time, right? So you got
started from 14, I think. All of the recession started on 14 and 15.
Yeah. So the price of oil dropped dramatically in October of 14, and then it's been a recession. Maybe not technically, but in real life, it's been awful to invest in Alberta the last 7 years.
On appreciation side, cash flow and buy and hold was okay, but even the buy and hold, you don't like it?
No, I lost a lot of money. So, I did an example. I had 3 buildings in one little town that's 33 doors. I did I bought it in 2014. And I just did a comparison. So these were rentals. So my taxes have exactly doubled in that time. Insurance has gone up 80%. And the water and electrical utilities have doubled. And natural gas has gone up 380%. So
the NOI is crazy.
And that's crazy.
It's dropped.
Right? And so, I had about 150 doors over the last few years. I lost in 2015, 2016, the rent went down about an average of $300 per unit per month, times 150. That's a loss of revenue of 45,000. At the same time, their costs are going up, and they've probably come back. The rents have probably come back maybe half, not all the way back to where they were. So it's not, it hasn't been fun, even on the cash flow side. If you bought, I bought a bunch of stuff at exactly the wrong time in 2014. So that, timing matters. If I'd invested that same money in Toronto, in Ontario in 2014, I'd be $10 million richer now. So a lot of it is timing and luck, unfortunately. So
100%. So I think the biggest challenge is for anyone starting the development part, not the pre-development part, is partnering with the builders and developers and operational partners. So what was the challenge for you? You had this especially as experience on BRRRRs and adding value and force appreciation on your business, but I think the developer part was a different story. So what was the challenge on the beginning to partner with developers if you're doing actual development on the lands?
So when I started in 2001, there was no books, there's no podcast, nobody's doing this stuff. So it was all, I had to figure everything out, right? So now I've got my own course, and now I teach you how to do it, so you can avoid all the headaches that I'll teach you to avoid.
Can I start with your book first?
Yeah, I did 4 books, and now I've turned the land development book into an actual online course. So I actually got a course that will teach people how to do this and make money and profit through these micro strategies. So you have to decide what you want, right? Like, am I just going to I define land development as getting a land or lot ready for a builder, and new construction is taking a service lot and building something on it, right? So are you going to do both pieces? Are you going to knock down that old house, get everything ready, and then build the 4-plex yourself? That's possible. Or maybe you just want to get the land ready, knock down the old house, put the utilities in the ground, and then sell it, right? So you have to decide what you want to do, how long, like, let's say just changing the upzoning or changing the zoning and the density, really, once you find the property, your team's doing all the work. So it's a really good kind of investment that's working in the background. You talked about cash flow before. We always kind of come at these from a rental or a flip world, and we always think of cash flow as a monthly thing. Well, what if we change, again, just tweak our thinking a little bit to say, what if it's a yearly thing? What if I could have just a couple of projects working in the background that my team, my civil engineer, my planner is working on, and it's not a lot of work in terms of time, and maybe I make $40,000 or $50,000 profit per each. So maybe I do 2 of those a year, and it's not a lot of work or a lot of effort because your team's doing most of the work. But now cash flow is yearly as opposed to monthly. So that's again a change of mindset to get away from this. Everything's rentals and flips. Let's maybe change your mindset. If you're having trouble playing in that sandbox, maybe come over to the land development, new construction sandbox. So it's really what you want to do and how long you want to, how much effort you want to put in terms of time. Yeah. Do you want to build a house, or you just want to stop at the land development part of it?
I think the comparison to buy and hold and rental properties where everyone is doing it and not many people doing this business of land development. If we're comparing apple to apple, so when you're dealing with buy and hold, you need commercial realtor, you need your team of contractors, you need property management. This is the same equation on land development. What is your core team?
Core team is basically still the realtor, because the realtor kind of comes in 3 spots. They help you find the lot. As you're putting your budget together, they're going to help you figure out what the eventual resale is going to be. And then they sell the lots at the end. So you're going to have a mortgage broker. You want to have a mortgage broker because there is less lenders that'll lend in the space and less equity partners. So you want to know someone who kind of knows the players. But your main team is a planner or civil engineer, cost consultant, surveyor, and then the traditional, attorney and accountant kind of thing. But typically it's the realtor, mortgage broker, and the civil engineer is your main team.
So for you, was there any benefit for you to partner with developers on an actual, like comparing between just land development to actually develop the land? Was any upside about doing this process with developer from the cash flow, not the cash flow, the return on investment perspective?
So depending on those micro strategies, what you want to do, the buyer is different, right? So if you're just going to do the paperwork, you're going to sell to a developer. If you're going to put some pipe in the ground and rezone the lots and actually physically create the lots, then you're going to sell to a builder, right? So, and maybe if you're in a rural area, you do some land development, you're going to sell to the actual person that's going to live in the house, and then they're going to hire a builder, right? So it really depends how far down, which microstrategy you're using, and then how far down you want to take it. I always kind of built the houses as well, right? So I'd tear down the old house and then I'd build the new stuff. So really my end user was the family that was going to live in it at the end, right? So depends what you're going to do and what strategy and how far down the line you want to take it.
Yeah. Okay. I think the one of the main subject also is the lending part versus the multifamily. So what was the highlight main differences and challenges between land development, even on, because you've been dealing with different strategies from micro to medium to high. I think your last big one was a casino in Calgary.
Yeah, I was actually instrumental in getting the new horse track, the racehorse track and the casino built here in North Calgary. So that was 720 acres. We were partnered with Ivanhoe Cambridge on a major mall that's out there as well. So it was a big project.
So from lending perspective, if we are comparing this to the different strategies of land development and development to the multifamily, what was the qualification lending challenges from expertise side, the LTV and all of this stuff? What was the differences between this versus the multifamily?
Right. The main difference is you typically, they want to see about 25 or 30% of your money in before you get kind of construction financing. So that's the main thing. And then your money goes in first, right? So you have to hit that 30% and you have to get your permits in place before you can tap into the construction financing. So it can be cash and heavy up at the front, and then basically you can fund everything after that through a loan. Another trick to that though is if you don't buy the land up front, can you just control the land through the permitting stage? So partnering with the seller or agreement for sale or options to purchase. So anything you can do to kind of stop money from coming out of your pocket is a good thing. So, and again, some of those strategies, just changing the zoning and the density, really, if you can control the land without owning it, your only real cost is $10,000 to $15,000 worth of engineering fees. So it can be a really way for people with smaller budgets to get into the real estate investing as well, right? So there's I say, and even that knocking down that old house. So let's say one of my first projects was a rental that I had. I knocked it down. I subdivided that one lot into two. One of the lots already had the utilities because it went to the old house.
Yeah.
So I just had to put utilities into the second one. That you're kind of digging a trench to the city street in front of you and tapping into the city mains. Depending where you are, that's, let's say 15 to 30,000. You add, 5 to 10 for engineering. So to do that is, let's say 25 to 50,000. Well, if you can afford to buy that old house as a rental or a flip, you can afford to buy it for that strategy because 25 to 50,000 is what you're going to spend on a renovation anyway.
Yeah.
So, the numbers are tracked very well to do this again with a smaller budget, right? So,
and then you knock it down and then you sell 2 lots.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I think my next question will be the actual structure with your operation partner or general partner and passive investors. How you structure usually the deal on the land development part?
The structuring itself?
Yeah, the structure with passive, you usually as a GP, and operation if you're bringing in operational partner or developer and passive investor, how you can structure the deal?
A great way to do it, and again, let's assuming they're accredited investors or friends and family, but a great way to do it is just have them, the money partner, own the land. And then you protect yourself with the joint venture agreement underneath, right? So that gives the money partner a lot of safety and flexibility, because that they, if things go wrong, they're not fighting over you over the price of the land. So here, you take the land, you're 100% on title. If things go well, we're going to split the profits 50-50, let's say. So it's actually a really great way of doing that. They're going to qualify for the mortgage. They're bringing the money in. So it's kind of a different strategy, but one that works really well. So again, but you have to protect yourself with the JV or joint venture agreement. But other than that, it's a lot easier. It's a lot cheaper to do than setting up, limited liability partnerships and general partners and limited partners. You only want to do those on larger projects because it's really expensive from a legal standpoint. But what I just said is really cheap on from the legal side and protects you just as well.
Yeah, 100%. And of course, you have to consult your accountant and lawyer before going to do this, because he's going to have the actual advice. But this is what we do usually: joint venture or shareholder agreement to avoid the expensive security lawyers to do all of the GPLP.
Right. And
Uh,
like I said, and the twist is just let your partner own the property. Like, don't try to be on title. Just let them handle it, because it makes them feel better because they got that extra security. It's
yeah.
a nice warm fuzzy for them. So yeah.
So I was trying to explain, or not explain. I want you to explain to the listeners one of your medium-sized deals, how you got the deal, what was the return on investment, how long you hold the deal. Like, if you can, like, tell us a little bit about one of your medium-sized deals, to give an actual insight of the business side of this deals.
So actually, let's start maybe at the smaller. So just zoning, changing the zoning and the density. I had a buddy that just did one here in Calgary last year, and for 2.5 months, they made $130,000 profit. I have a Facebook group, and somebody posted a couple of months ago that they made $300,000 profit in 6 months just by changing the zoning and the density. Yeah. So that's kind of those are possible for sure. What I said before about knocking down that old house and splitting the lots, you could, depending where you are, there's probably a $50,000 or $100,000 profit just by doing that. A medium-sized project, I did a 7-acre site here in Calgary a few years ago. And basically I changed the zoning and the density. It was 1 to 2 units per acre. I changed it to 3 to 5. And then the zoning was a single family home to, I changed it to duplexes. So the benefit
on 7 acres?
On 7.25 acres. Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
How does that help? What does that do? So before, at 2 units per acre, at 7.25, that's 14.5. They round down. So I could have created 14 lots and then sold to a builder who could have done 14 single family homes.
Yeah.
After I changed the zoning and the density, 5 times 7.25 is 36 and a bit. You round that down. After the changes, now you can do 36 lots as a developer. Wow. And the builder can do 36 duplexes, right? So that you've changed highest and best value. You've changed the value of that land. At that point, I had the option just to sell, and I could have made a profit of 400,000 just by doing that without touching the dirt. I decided to go ahead and do everything, and then there was basically, the numbers worked out. There was roughly $1 million profit from doing the land development piece, right? So, 2 or 3 years in development, but that's kind of the return, right? So basically, all these micro strategies are, I think, a really solid alternative to other short-term strategies like flips or condo conversions. I think they come out really well in the same timeline, but also in terms of returns. I think, a good land development, any one of these micro strategies can be the equivalent of several flips if they're done right. So you've got the potential, basically in the same amount of time, to make more.
So on this deal of the 36th lot, you did the actual development by yourself. When you're saying by yourself, you partner with the developer, correct? No,
I was the developer. No, I did that myself.
So you have your own construction company?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, that's part I didn't like, really. I didn't like the on-site stuff. So, when I did flips or I did condo conversions, I'd be on site every day and organizing my trades. And I'd go to, like I said, Rona twice a day. And I'd go to the drywall wholesalers and, negotiate the price of a truckload of drywall, so, yeah. But I got tired of that after a long time. So now I let other people do that. But yeah. So that's what I teach in the course too, is pick your strengths and then delegate everything else.
I was trying to, if you don't mind, if you can highlight the actual book, your book for land development, like the main subjects and also the course, because this is, as I mentioned, is not covered well on any of the podcast. I didn't like this, to be honest, and I would be happy to, if you can highlight a little bit about the book and the course. About what is covered on the subjects.
Right. So that was kind of a pet peeve of mine too. I got my first book about real estate when I was 15. That's 40 years ago. So it's always about rentals and flips, right? Like 90 to 95% is everything. It's rentals and flips and BRRRRs and rentals. Like, so there's really nothing out there. There's a few courses through universities, but they're technical. They're almost like if you want to become a planner or a civil engineer, they're not really there as investors. So the books, I try to tell stories of what I've done objectively, right? Like a lot of the TV shows and stuff, it just works every time too, right? Like, the pretty couple goes and this is the house we bought to flip, and they may have a couple of problems, but at the end, oh yeah, it all worked well and we made a profit, right? It doesn't work all the time, right? So I try to be honest in my books and in the course that, this is how you make money in flips or rentals or land development. And this is how you can get your butt kicked too, right? Like, so you got to watch for that. So that's what I try to do in most of my stuff, is be honest. And then also the things that I really highlight in the course is, yes, we tell you the steps and this is how physically you do this, but the real strength is the network. We have a closed Facebook group for the students, so they can network, and actually they're starting to invest together, which is kind of cool. Every 2 weeks, we do a closed Zoom call with me. So you actually get direct contact with me, which is really important, because a lot of times, you read a book, well, then what do you do, right? Like, so, and then the other thing that's really great about the course is we've got a checklist. So there's a 9-page checklist. So again, yeah, you finish the course, what do I do next? Well, here's the checklist. So first thing is, how do we find the right municipality? How do we find the right community? And, what do they need? And we go down. So it's really important. So you're going on your own, and then you hit a wall, oh, got a problem. Well, now there's the Facebook group, or there's the Zoom Q&A with me to get your, so I really want you guys to succeed, and I really want to do everything I can to help you with that. So lots of access to me. And then the other thing is really focus on how to find stuff, how to fund it, right? So probably 60% of the course is how to find opportunities and how to fund them, and what the structure. We have I've got a video on how to structure deals and that. So, and that'll work no matter what strategy you're into. So it's, the number one and two things everybody wants to learn is, how do I find stuff and how do I fund it, right? So I go into that in great detail. So lots of value there.
So one of the things you mentioned, that you started on 2001, where is no podcast or books about this. So who was your influential mentor? You're now doing coaching for people, but who was like your role model when you started?
I had a kind of a realtor that had done a lot of stuff, and he pushed me in the right direction a little bit, but mostly it was just trial and error, like talking to civil engineers and going down to City Hall. So it was a lot of, I used to be a computer guy, and I always say, if you screw up on a computer, you're just staying late and working for free to fix it, right? If you make a mistake in real estate, you're writing a check to somebody to fix the problem, right? So I wrote a lot of checks to a lot of people to screw up. So yeah, so if you can attach yourself to someone who's done it, they'll save you, hours and hours, and potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars it costs. So it was really self-learning. Yeah, there was nobody really there.
My last question is, how the people can reach you to follow your success?
Just, you can just put in darcymarler.com. That'll take you to my main webpage, and on the webpage, there's links for the books. There's links for a webinar to learn about the course. There's, I've got an open Facebook group where, and a YouTube channel. Like, I post videos once a week on land development and new construction. So if you really want to get into this, just go to darcymarler.com, and however you want to interact with me. I do mentoring as well. So whoever wants to do that is, I can help people that are already into land development and construction but want to scale. I can definitely show you how to scale properly. So
that's great. Thanks also for your time today, and we're really happy to bring you in again to talk about more strategies about land development. Thanks a lot.
No, I appreciate it. And I really think this is the next big thing, because people are having so much problems finding stuff to flip and rent. I really think with all the immigration coming in and the existing housing crisis, there's going to be a real demand for lots, and this is going to be big over the next 5 years. So if you want to catch the beginning of a wave,